So I was just talking to a friend of mine. She has this problem with bullying going on. And, she was upset, as is reasonable, to the point in which she was making these comments about potentially doing physical harm to herself in order to try to forget about the pain that her bully has done to her. Ultimately, that's probably not the wisest idea. But what coping mechanisms are available to somebody who does have a problem with bullying? Unfortunately, I can only speak from self-experience. In case there's any question about it, I am a type of guy who attracts a lot of negative attention. I've been in my fair share of fights. I've had to deal with my fair share of bullying. My childhood was when I was kind of messed up. In that, 13 to 18-year-old range where most people are developing their lifetime social skills and making long-term friendships. I had instead fallen into a couple of kind of messed up traps. I became deeply involved in religion, and now I'm a recovering theist. That did an unfathomable amount of damage to my psychology, I'm sure. And also I moved around a lot. I've been to quite a few places. I went to Nebraska, I went to Wisconsin, I went to South Dakota, I went to California, I went to Mississippi. I didn't care for that much. And, at the time of your life when you're trying to learn how to talk to people, how to interact with people, if that's going on, your mind will only come up with one defense mechanism, and that's to numb your feelings. Make it so that you become obsessed with art or science or literature instead of learning how to talk to people. Because a book you can carry with you, a person you can't. And you don't want to be in a situation where you have to continuously sever your ties to people around you. So this brings me back to thinking about who are some of the bullies I'd encountered? What are some of the things I dealt with? How did I deal with them? Only 3 events came to my mind as I was thinking about this. First off, I don't know if I should say names or not. I'm going to not, just in order to keep anonymity fair for everyone. There was a boy, he was big into sports. He was tall and skinny, the sort of person that people want to be around. And he decided that the best thing to do to improve his social status, which is really what bullying is more often than not, is to find somebody who looks as different from him as he could. Me. And throw things at me, pushed me into lockers, and ultimately one day decided he wanted to tie a rope around my neck and try hanging me from the gymnasium rafters. That was a situation where I decided the best recourse was to take advantage of my slightly larger body size than his, because even back then, I had at least 25 pounds on him. So I had to pick him up and throw him across the hallway. It's kind of interesting seeing 2 10-year-olds get into a situation where one picks up another one and physically throws them 40 feet. I don't know if it was actually 40 feet, that's why I'm remembering it. It was probably 10. I don't know if I actually got off the ground, I think I might have just rolled. That resulted in disciplinary action from 2 different directions. First off, he kicked the living shit out of me the next day with 8 of his best friends. And I got myself 3 weeks worth of ISS. In-school suspension. I don't know if they still use that term. Next event happened when I moved to Nebraska. I was the new kid in town, and at that point in time, I decided that wearing colors was for pussies, so I threw my entire wardrobe and bought a bunch of black shirts and black pants. The guy followed me home from school. I knew who he was. He lived across the street from me. There was a construction site right across the street from both of us, as we were in this, three-way angle where you had Walmart on one side of us, a construction site alongside that, my house on this side of the street, his house across from that. It was a cul-de-sac. To get home from school, I would cut through the construction site, and I heard somebody walking behind me. Now, my understanding is that this wasn't bullying that was actually directed at me. This was actually directed at my sister, and it was this friend of my sister's younger brother who decided that he wanted to pick a fight. This was probably the best that this could possibly have ended. So this individual decided that he wanted to run at me and try to jump me as I was coming to the construction site. This is a point in time where I had started studying mixed martial arts, and I was situationally aware that he was behind me. I sidestep him and throw my elbow backwards, failing to realize that actually he was 6 inches shorter than me, so that I ended up hitting him in the forehead instead of in the chest, which I had intended. His body doubled over backwards while his legs continued to move forward as he slid past me. Now, this individual is a particularly small individual by comparison. I don't know what made him think it was a good idea to run at me. I don't believe that I seriously hurt him, but I scared the bejesus out of him. Picked him up, and he actually was incredibly pleased that I had fought back. And he and I became close friends for a couple of years. I wasn't able to keep in touch with him when I moved to Wisconsin, so that fell apart. But that was a fun relationship while it lasted. The last story I have in this regard is from when I moved to Wisconsin. And probably the most relevant story. I was getting into my late teens at this point in time. I was just starting to dibble and dabble in paganism, which was sort of an intermediary step between abandoning Lutheranism and picking up Mormonism. And I'd go back to paganism after that, by the way, before eventually throwing it away, but that's a completely different story. I never learned the name of this individual, but it was early on in the school year, from my recollection. I don't know if it actually was. And these two individuals are standing side by side, and I go to walk in between them because I need to get to my next class. The one standing alongside to my left side at that point grabs my arm, twists me in a half circle, punches me in the face. I take the momentum and I carry on through to spin in a complete circle and walk past. I do not look at him. I do not say anything to him. I simply did not care. He comes chasing after me, and he looks physically hurt by the idea that I didn't look at him, that I didn't acknowledge him. He's angry that I ignored the idea that he attacked me. And he stops me again and says, "What's the matter with you? Why aren't you fighting with me?" I shake my head, "Because I don't care." "Are you some sort of pacifist or what?" "Yeah, why not? I'll accept that term." And he turns to walk away and mutters, "That's hard. That's real hard." I never saw him again, never heard from him again. He had no desire to engage me because I didn't engage him. My friends, something that a bully who attacks you in the dark depends on is the idea that you're going to engage them. If you don't fight with your attacker, they have no one to fight with. I cannot say if this is going to work multiple times, but it worked that time. And I was never put in a position again where I had to throw another punch at someone. I don't know if the word of what I did got around the school and people were terrified of me. I don't know if they loved me or respected me or what. But that was the last engagement I'd ever had with a bully that I can remember. This man throws a punch at me, I ignore him. Now, if this was a robbery, it would be a different situation, but this wasn't. This was a random act of violence that was simply not paid any heed to. I guess what it comes down to is that people who want to hurt you only have as much power as you give them. And if you give them nothing, then what can they do? Anyway, I would be happy to talk more about this if anybody asks. But for now, it is coming up on 11 o'clock where I am, and I have to go see my grandmother. Have a good day.